Hey guys, Extus here. So welcome to another episode of the show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, be sure to come join us. The group is a private group specifically for coaches, consultants, service providers, and we have about I think we just crossed 8,900 members. So if you're watching this interview anywhere else, be sure to come join our private Facebook community. Now, with that being said, I want to introduce today's guest, Barbara Bickham. Hey, welcome, Barbara.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And you said you're in California, right?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Perfect,
Yes,
perfect.
thank you.
Yeah, were you born and raised back there? Have you lived there your entire
Native
life?
LA, born and raised.
Love it, love it. Good, good. So, Barbara, tell us a bit about what it is that you do.
So I kind of do two things in life. The first thing I do is I run a company called Trail and Ventures. I'm the founder and CTO there. And what we do there is we help put companies on blockchains and AI and any kind of technical innovation you want to do strategically. That's what we help companies do with that company. The
Hmm.
other thing I do is I'm the managing director of the Women's Innovation Fund and Accelerator. So we help companies grow and scale. We run an accelerator. We help companies become sustainable, and we help companies that are gender balanced, equal amount of men and women at the C level. So
Hmm.
that's what we do. We have a fund and we have an accelerator there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. So the first
Mhm.
one you said the Trail Adventures, is that right?
Trailin Ventures, T R
Trail
A I
Adventures.
L Y N, Trailin,
Okay, Trail and
like
Adventures.
blazing a trail.
Got you, got you. So tell
Mhm.
me a bit about that. Tell me what's that all
So
about?
what we do there is we basically put companies on blockchain. So we provide strategic technical advice to help companies utilize all advanced tech. It's not just blockchain. We do blockchain, we do artificial intelligence, we do AR, not really VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, and then we also work in the Internet of Things. So we work at the intersection of all those advanced emerging tech companies to help companies innovate in their tech stack. So how do you go about applying these new technologies into the 21st century?
Hmm. Okay. So in
So I'll
terms of,
give an example. I'll give an example of something I do.
go
We
ahead.
all have felt the pain. We're in the global pandemic. I'll mention that,
Hmm.
but we all have felt the pain of having money distributed to us
Hmm.
in either via a small business or as an individual. So wouldn't it be nice if the government could do that in like an hour?
Hmm.
So a blockchain can help empower that. And then if your company wasn't eligible, an AI could tell the government, like, hey, this company is a public company. Like, why were public companies getting this money? This company is a public company. This company is now not allowed. So they could have blocked that ahead of time before they even ended up distributing any money to those types of companies. So
Hmm.
these are the types of strategies I come up with, you know, talk to governments about it, but also companies. Like, how do you utilize these advanced technologies inside of your company and innovate and become more efficient and more effective? And I don't believe in like replacing people. I believe in using the technology for mundane things,
Hmm.
automation, efficiency, and then redeploy the people into other things.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now I've heard a lot about blockchain and stuff like that, but it's a concept
Yes.
I've really never studied and got into.
Hmm.
Tell me, can you tell us a bit more about blockchain, what it is, how it works?
Sure. A blockchain is four things. It's very simple. A blockchain is distributed, not all in one place. It's encrypted, private and protected.
Hmm.
It's immutable, which means it's a permanent record, and it's a ledger, debit and credit. It's literally a ledger with a timestamp. So that's a
Hmm.
blockchain, conceptually, four words. The thing it's best for is kind of recording. So how do you track things?
Hmm.
So if you talk about supply chains or logistics or distribution or payments, how do you track things? It's good for identity. How do you validate and verify that you are who you say you are? How do you make sure that this product really came from where it said it came from and it really is that product? Those are kind of validation and verification. And then the other thing it's good for is, clearly payments. Everybody's kind of knows it about it from a payment side. more,
Hmm.
like kind of the cryptocurrency side. But blockchain has a lot of more uses than just cryptocurrency. That was
Hmm.
just the first practical use.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's
Good.
that's kind of what a blockchain is, and those are some of the uses.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Now, what got you into this type of work? What got you into this field?
So I was when I was very young, 12 years old, I got a program that I wrote when I was a kid, and it was do an area of a circle, and I had to do a flow chart and print it out on a paper back in the day when they had printers like that. So I did that in about a week, and the assignment was like for multiple weeks. So I was kind of done, and I said, well, I'm done with this part, so let me make some more. So I did area of a circle, area of a triangle, area of a rectangle, area of a square. Well, area of a square and area of a rectangle have very similar, you know, math to it. So I
Hmm.
created all that, and I got an A, clearly. But
Hmm.
then after that, that kind of gave me my love for computers and computing, and that was written all in Visual Basic. So it was a very, very long time ago. But that's how I got into it.
Hmm. Okay, so you started
So,
like at 12 years old. That's when
mhm.
you got your first start.
Yep.
So, in essence, like, how did you? Are you kind of? Would you say you were self-taught? In terms of
No, I'm
most of the
not
stuff you figured
self-taught. I
out.
have computer science from Berkeley.
Hmm.
I have a master's degree in computer science. I have
Hmm.
uh, kind of a new entrepreneur certificate in business. So I'm always learning. I'm not. I mean, some things I'm teaching myself, but I'm always learning as well. I'm not
Hmm.
just completely self-taught.
Yeah. But how
Because
does
you
your
are, I mean, after you get out of school, you kind of are semi self-taught, really. Like you
hmm
keep you're a continuous learning person. Some things you're going to learn by yourself. Some things you might take classes or other things.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so you're ultimately in the area of like new tech, immersion tech, and
Yes,
stuff like that, right?
yes.
So what do you see in terms of what's your how do you see new tech affecting the future, affecting what it is that we're the path that we're currently on?
How is new tech affecting the future and path we're on?
Hmm.
Well, it's going to the thing about the new technology, and new technology is global, so I also look at global trends. So if
Hmm.
you think about here in the United States, we're behind on the new tech in a lot of areas,
Oh, would you
because
say
a
so?
lot of yes, absolutely, because a
Hmm.
lot of other countries have adopted kind of blockchains, AIs, not quite the quantum computer. I think we'll be first in that. But if you look at the emerging tech and where it's going to go, a quantum computer is going to be the purveyor of kind of, I don't want to say everything, but it will be a purveyor of many things. And AI will go on top of there, and it will do governance, which is kind of, the checking. And then blockchain will be on there, and then the blockchain will be watched by the AI. And then we have the Internet of Things, which is all the phones, self-driving cars, all the drones, all the kind of self-flying things, anything that's kind of monitoring, or Google Home, Alexa, anything that's kind of monitoring itself will feed data into those kind of machines. And
Hmm.
then those machines will handle and distribute various and sundry things with minimal human intervention.
Hmm.
That's what I see.
Yeah, love it, love it. And
Blockchain in a box.
blockchain in a box.
That's what I call it. Blockchain in a box.
Yes, yes. So tell me, what are you most passionate about right now? What projects or what are you passionate about right now?
Well, I have a couple. There's kind of two projects I'm super passionate about. The first one is like helping unbanked and underbanked and kind of underserved communities. So I look at how do you utilize the blockchain for those types of communities. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing I look at from a blockchain side, and AI as well, is how do we go about making things more sustainable and more kind of eco-friendly. And sustainable is across multiple vectors. It's not just environmental. It could be, helping poverty. It could be, making sure you have clean water. Sustainable has many elements to it. It's not just environmental, as most people know. So we kind of help at the other levels of sustainability. You know, gender balance is one of the sustainable efforts as well. So
Hmm.
those are kind of the two things that I'm working on that I'm most passionate about right now.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about the quantum computer. I've heard,
Yes.
I've watched a few videos on that too. But
Hmm.
what tell me about that. How do these
Well,
things work?
how does the that's yeah. Do we have enough time to explain that?
Yes, yes, it could
Oh,
take years, right?
in its like essence, a quantum computer is at the lowest, it's at the lowest level of computing. So what it does is it can do many transactions in a very small piece of, like, I'll call it data or information.
Hmm.
And then that allows it to scale across many things. The other thing about a quantum computer is it's ultimately secure. So there's um no lack of it's very hard to hack. You know, there's a
Hmm.
lot of cybersecurity issues, and you know, phishing attacks. People are hacking into everyone's computers, people trying to get your identity, trying to get your credit card information, get your bank account information. So the quantum computer kind of um, is inherently secure because of not only the way it's encrypted, but also the way it's encoded, or
Hmm.
as far as the code is concerned. So it's inherently secure. So it's very hard to hack unless you had another quantum computer.
Hmm. Okay, good. Now, what would it be used for? What's the because I've heard a lot of talk about it, but I just don't because as you
What
could
would it be
tell,
used?
AI is not really my strong point, right?
AI or quantum.
Hmm.
The quantum computer would be used for like banking, high, you know, like anything that's high transaction. So like a banking transaction that needs ultimate security. Any of these exchanges, like if you're exchanging money, if you were going to wire money, a quantum computer would be good for that.
Hmm.
Um, what else? What else would a quantum computer? I mean, it could be like any other computer. It would just be far faster and just more compute power.
Hmm.
Like it could create transactions or compute transactions very quickly, like, you know, instantaneously.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
mean, if you want super fast transactions, or like when all these Internet of Things come in and you have to process all those. I mean, there's already hundreds of billions of pieces of data.
Yeah.
And so like imagine it now quadrupling, or you know, 100 times that, because now you have all these things coming. What kind of computers are going to handle that? And that would be the quantum computer. It could handle it, and it can handle it quickly.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. Now, within your experience, how does on your journey do
Hmm.
you build do you create software as well too? Do you create programs? Do you write code
So
and stuff like that?
yeah, I did code. I still code for myself. I don't code as much as I used to. I'm more strategic on the higher end.
Hmm.
But yeah, in my journey, I did code. My very first job, they actually had me architect and design something from scratch. So I'm very good at doing that,
Hmm.
and coded it as well. So I do a lot of that type of work, but more on blockchains and more kind of with AI. Because if
Hmm.
you think about AI, and we've heard a lot about models, you've heard a lot about models
Hmm.
lately, like how is data being modeled, and then this data says this versus this data says this. Modeling is something that we do with AI. So the data that you collect, the data that you put in, the better and the cleaner data you put in, the better the model is. And then they talk a lot about assumptions. So like the better the assumptions are, the better the model could be as well. So it AI has many aspects to it. I mean, facial recognition is one. Like, you know, is this really Barbara? You know, they talk about deep fakes. So can you create 5 of me, and then can you really recognize the real one of me versus the other 4 fake people? So that's an AI task. Um, a lot of uh, when you call a bank or half of these, anything you call now, I call it the phone weave. you're
Mhm.
really talking to an AI, the phone, and you're pressing and pressing. And then it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand. That's
Mhm.
really an AI. I know McDonald's has AI. So several of these companies, when you go up and do an order and like, hey, I want my, you know, latte or my Starbucks, half of the time you're talking to an AI and then it's human assist. So AI is very, very ubiquitous and more prevalent than most people recognize.
Mhm. Okay. And something you mentioned, deep fakes. Tell me about that, because I've seen a few of these tools, these technology that kind of does that type of stuff. But that's like some scary type of fascinating, interesting type stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
What were my thoughts on what again? Say that one more time.
Deep fakes.
Oh, on deepfakes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, years ago, I always told people your identity is for sale. So we put our stuff into Facebook, we put our stuff into Instagram, we put our stuff into Twitter, Snapchat. We have all our identity around digital identity. So we have our physical being identity and we have a digital identity.
Hmm.
So if someone could take your identity and then use it against you or use it for you, because I've talked to people about deep fakes and they said, well, this will just be the next advertising. I said, yeah, but it also can be the next, negative thing as well.
Hmm.
So if you think about a deep fake and the fact that I could be saying something I shouldn't be saying, and then somebody could come and say, hey, Barb, you said these things, and it's like, no, it's not me. And now I have to prove that the deep fake wasn't me. That's a huge, that could be another way to um, kind of steal people's identity and have an identity theft.
Hmm.
But then how do you combat that as an individual? Because you have all these digital footprints, and are you really keeping track of all your digital footprints? I don't know.
Right.
It's important to know about these deepfakes, because if you think about ransomware, that's where somebody came and said, hey, we saw you, we hijacked your financial transactions, or we hijacked something and you need to give us money. Like that's, like, so hey, if you don't, so let's say they did ransomware and then they go, hey, we'll release these deep fakes if you don't give us this money, and
Hmm.
these deep fakes will have who knows what on them. How do you combat that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. I remember being when I lived in California. I remember I'm not sure what I did, but I think I visited some site or something. I think I got the ransomware, right. So my computer got locked and had this weird number. Called this number. Well, it looked like a
Yep.
US number, and I called it. And I was speaking to some guy in India, and I could tell like it was like maybe in a call center or something, because there was like all this noise, all this like chatter going on behind them. Like what, I was told to call this number and stuff like that. He's like, oh yeah, I work for Microsoft and stuff like that. Well, here's what you got to do: just give me your credit card information, and I'll unlock it. I was like, whoa, what is happening there?
Right. But
Yeah,
now, could you imagine the next thing? Like, if you go, "Oh no, that's okay," and then they go, "Oh no, but we have these, we have these things we made, and we're going to release them all on the internet," and you're
yeah.
like, "What?"
Now the question I have as well too, because with the deep fakes, the technology to create them, is that technology available to anyone? Like how, who
I
has
mean,
access to that
you
type of
yes,
technology?
everyone can make it. I'm not going to say like how to make a deep fake
Uh-huh.
on this,
But
but
that
yes,
technology is available to
anyone.
everyone?
It is widely available. Like you can make it, but
Hmm.
you have to think about like why would you make that? Number one, and
Hmm.
number two, what would the purpose of that be for you? Like unless you were, I mean, I don't know why you would make one
Yeah, yeah. Because
personally. I mean, unless it was for malicious purposes.
yeah, yeah. And that's a very interesting thing too, because I know that with just because everything is accessible
Hmm.
and not being, I don't know whether there's like any type of moderation or type of regulations around it, or it's
Hmm.
like if someone, just like you were saying, if someone just said um, they wanted to ruin someone's life or something or do whatever, they could literally just go out there and do that type of stuff, which is pretty scary in its
It's
sense.
scary. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of ethical questions,
Hmm.
in dealing with technology. So, one of the things that we're always thinking about, at least in my company, is ethics. What is in legality, like you said, like what is legal, what is not legal.
Right.
What's ethical and not, and just because you can do it in a song, you should be doing it. So you really
Yeah.
want to be careful about, to employ any of these types of kind of consulting companies.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look very carefully at how they think about these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. You froze
Very
for a second
critical.
there. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I think I lost you for a quick
Are
second
you
there.
here? Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
I can hear you now. Okay, so your background is all tech, huh?
Great.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good.
All
So
tech
yeah,
and
so
business. I actually have a business background as well.
uh so
Mhm.
so you said Trail Adventures. Now, what about the second one? You said that you were the managing director of, what was that one
The
again?
Women's Innovation Fund and Accelerator.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
So what we do there is we're a fund. We're raising $100 million, and
Mm-hmm.
we do three things there. We work with emerging tech companies via acceleration. So we help them move from point A to point B. We do something very, very unique. We have something called a due diligence intensive, and that helps a company become fundable. And then we create a sustainability plan for them, which helps them, kind of put them on the map, and then create their next generation customers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what that does. That's the accelerator. And then we evaluate them for our fund through there, because we want to work with you, because as a potential investor in your company, we know this is a long-term relationship. So we kind of want to know, like, can we work together at first? The second thing we look for in that fund is gender balanced. So we like equal amount of men and women at the C level. We do that because we know that there is a gap in funding. We also look for underrepresented founders because there's a gap in funding there. So those are kind of two reasons why we look at that. The third thing we look at is we create these sustainability plans so that companies can be more sustainable and have that thinking, because their next set of customers globally are thinking that. So you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself that way
Mm-hmm.
prior to going out, to Europe or Asia or some of these other places that are a little more forward thinking on those areas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about
Mhm.
COVID-19? Has COVID-19 affected how you accompany the business
Uh,
does anything?
COVID COVID-19 hasn't affected us. No,
Mm-hmm.
actually, so I was already very virtualized. The fund was already virtualized. We actually virtualized it more. We like raised it up a whole nother level of virtualization. So our accelerator is completely online. It was already virtual, but now it's like a course. So we have kind of an online course there.
Mm-hmm.
We do some office hours, or kind of like the concept of group coaching, but and then we bring in mentors. So we're gonna have more mentorship there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the fund. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I for Trailin, we are doing more like webinars on how do you do remote working, because it's one thing to have all these great tools. Zoom is great, Slack is great, all these things are great. So like you have all this technology, now what do you do with it? What's the
Mm-hmm.
real plan behind implementing a remote workforce? So I did this for one of the hyperloops, and so I've been spreading that knowledge. And because a lot of people are confused, a lot of people don't know what to do, kind of forced to do it. How do you manage people? How do you manage, because you can't just go in someone's office, hey, what's happening? So how do
Mm-hmm.
you communicate? How do you as the leader get things done? Because you have other, like you have your things to do, and then other things are happening. Now you're remote. And
Mm-hmm.
then how do you onboard people, as far as people may have started? How do you like create that camaraderie of, hey, you're in this company, and even though we're not together right now, we
Mm-hmm.
are still together. So there's some things you can do to make people feel more comfortable in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been running workshops like that. um,
Oh, you've been doing workshops? I didn't know that.
yes.
Yeah. And let me see.
Webinar webinars like that.
Webinars.
Yeah,
You
I do
mentioned a
webinars.
course. Yeah, you mentioned a course.
Yes.
What's like? Do you guys sell a program as well too? How do?
So our program is for the fund.
Mm-hmm.
So we do sell a program. It's our accelerator program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's uh, that's about to go live 100% on May the 15th. So we're going to open up to the public. We have one person in beta. So we're actually running a webinar on that, kind of like how do you get into an accelerator? Because many companies want to know, like, how do you get into accelerators? And then we kind of talk about our process in that
Hmm.
webinar as well. So we're kind of
Okay.
running webinars in that respect, and then we kind of talk about how we work, what's the pricing, and all that in there.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So
Hmm.
next question, I guess the final question becomes,
Yes.
if someone wanted to learn more about you, what you do, what you're up to, what's the best way to get in contact?
Well, you can go to my website, www.trailyn.com. That's
Hmm.
one way. And then if you want to know more about the fund, you can go to www.wifaxvc, WIFAXVC, all one word.com. So those are kind of two ways to get in touch with us.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Great.
thank you so much, Barbara. And guys, if you're listening to this on the replay, I'll have the links to contact Barbara right below. So if you're interested in anything she just shared with you here, be sure to reach out. Awesome, Barbara. So I guess before we end here, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you and thank your group for listening today. And I hope you guys learned something, or, if some kind of spark some kind of conversation, let's have a chat.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Well, I appreciate you making the time to be here today. Thank you. And we will be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.